Okay, let's go straight into the conversation this morning. You have an idea. We've given you a background, and we have what is going on right now. You have an idea of what is going on. You have an idea of the topic, and you have the position of the lawmakers. Now, let's go straight to the conversation. Now, we have Comrade Chris Okoro joining me this morning. Comrade Chris is of the Joint Public Service Negotiating Council. He negotiates when it comes to minimum wage. He represents Abia State. Comrade Chris Okoro, good morning to you. Welcome to the platform on Flow 94.9 FM.
Good morning.
You're speaking with Michael Oni on Flow 94.9 FM. Thank you very much for joining us.
Welcome.
I'm sure you have an idea of what is going on in the National Assembly concerning the negotiation of the national minimum wage, which has been proposed to be moved from the exclusive list to concurrent list. Now, let's delve into... Can you put us through how the minimum wage is negotiated in the past?
Yeah, it has been under exclusive list, meaning that it must be nationally discussed and agreed. And this time around, they want to change it to concurrent list so that the states will now negotiate or agree on their own. So that's where we say no.
How do you go about this negotiation? You've negotiated on behalf of Abia State severally. Is it that you go to the federal government with your representatives from other states and you agree on a particular amount? Or how do you go about it? Give us an insight into that.
Yes. The issue is that when the national agree with our national headquarters, agree with the federal government of Nigeria on terms and conditions, then the template will be released, and we work on the template in the states.
Okay, but despite being negotiated, despite having it as the national minimum wage, we call it national. It means it binds all states in the federation. Am I correct?
Exactly.
Why do we still have this difference? We have the differences in wages across the states, even on this while still on the exclusive list.
Yes. The states have never been equal in payment. There hasn't been any time all the states are paying the same thing. And that's why any decision taken may not be equal because of what? The percentage that is left. Now that is 30% minimum that each state should pay. If a state was paying 25 and the other state is paying 15, and the other state is paying 10. I think we have seen that the addition in each of the states is not going to be the same. So that is why what you asked is applicable. It cannot be uniformly in all the states because the states have not been in the same level.
You're saying the state has not been in the same level, but that negotiation at the national level binds all other states of the federation, both as it been agreed on the federal with the federal government rather.
Yes, get it clear.
Okay.
When they say minimum wage,
national minimum wage, yes.
National minimum wage of 30,000. It then means that what is expected each of the states of the federation to pay at the least salary earner is 30,000.
Okay.
Now, if Abia has been paying 29,000 naira, it then means that Abia needed to add 1%. I mean, 100 naira to make it that 30.
Okay.
Then the other state that have been paying 15,000, they need to add the addition to make it that 30,000. Yes, that's why it has not been uniform like that.
It's unfortunate. What can we say the reasons behind the non-uniformity of the minimum wage being paid across board in the country?
It's economy. You don't expect people that are living in Lagos paying for one room of I don't know how much they are paying now for one room. I'm talking of one room. Talk more of when you go to flat to pay the same thing that an Abia person is paying.
All right.
You don't expect people from Port Harcourt, oil zone, where the foreigners are, to pay the same house rent with a Enugu person.
But
so
is
it
this
is the economy that has varied from time.
Comrade Chris, is this acceptable to you despite having a national, we call it national, which means it binds on all states? Is it acceptable to you that some states still pay below the national minimum wage that we have in the country?
It is not acceptable. We have been fighting for that. We've never agreed with them. And that's why we say over our agreement that we shall never allow this concurrent, they want to shift it, because that will now mean total slavery to all workers of the state, of the federation. Because the one that is nationally agreed, stamp and seal, is not applied as required. It's not implemented as expected. Then now when you allow that person that find it very difficult to agree with terms and conditions that is agreed nationally to implement it, then when you allow him to take a decision, what do you feel that he's going to take? Zero decision. So that's why Labour say it's better we do our worst if you people should do that, because we know the implication is going to be very slavery to workers.
All right, Comrade Chris Okoro, I do really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much for your analysis on this subject matter. We do appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
All right, that's Comrade Chris Okoro, Abia State Chairman of the Joint Negotiation Council. Of course, you heard him there, of course, giving us the background of how minimum wages have been negotiated in the past. It is still the platform, the pinnacle of all discussions, right here on Flow 94.9 FM. You know, the uniform national minimum wage is at the root of the industrial disharmony and instability being witnessed in the health and the education sectors. In particular, over the years, so far, no fewer than 25 out of the 36 states of the Federation are unable to meet the December 31, 2019 deadline the same NLC gave them to conclude all negotiations on the consequential adjustment arising from the 30,000 naira minimum wage then, you remember, of faced industrial unrest. Now, the current minimum wage was signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari. That was on the 18th of April, 2019. I'm going to give you this background. I'm going to continue this background I'm giving you. But let's move on to the next level of our conversation this morning. I do have the TUC chairman, that's the Trade Union Congress chairman in Abia State, Comrade Sonny Onwuma. Comrade, good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us on the platform on Flow 94.9 FM.
Good morning.
I do appreciate your time. Now, let's go straight into the conversation, what we have for you this morning on the program. The question is, from private sector perspective, don't you think it makes economic sense that states are allowed to fix wages according to the available resources?
From all indications, it's not, because in the sense that every state, or from the federal aspect of it, every state is not supposed to fix their salary.
Okay.
Yes. Let me move back in retrospect. When we were practicing in the regional system of government, remember that salaries were fixed in the federal or in the national, and ask the states to pay what they can. Then, if you can cast our mind back, the western region paid higher. So invariably, it has never moved from federal to state to negotiate or to negotiate on their own. If it is fixed, this is the minimum you are going to pay. It's based on that minimum that you take your point. So, from the private sector, before even the minimum wage is fixed, remember that they liaise with the private sector. How much will people be able to pay? Just like what happened before this present one is fixed. And remember that we had 50-something thousand naira minimum wage before we consulted the private sector, how much will we be able to pay so that we carry people along? Because if we move with the 52,000 naira minimum wage as earlier proposed, invariably those in the private sector will lose their members. And losing members or sacking their members means the labor losing workers. So in order to harmonize the NLC, the TUC, or the organized labor join forces with the private sector, they came to that 30,000 naira minimum wage. So it was agreed that this is exactly what will be conducive before every other thing was brought to bear.
Okay.
So,
but comrade, if we look at these states of the federation, they have different resources, even looking at their internally generated revenue and what they get monthly from the federal government. Now, the question is it possible that states with lower allocation pay the same wage with others with greater resources?
From Adam, let me use the word. All the states have never been of equal basis in terms of resources. They've never been the same. The income have never been the same.
Yes.
Yes, they can never and can never be. So that's why the federal government is basing it. This is exactly what every state should pay as the minimum.
Okay.
So when it will come to say that every state will have on the same basis, that is, we negotiate on the same salary, it's not possible because Abuja or Lagos, for instance, can never be equal with that of Ebonyi.
Okay, if we are attesting to this fact that we do not have the same resources, I'm talking about the states of the federation, why not just allow the House of Representatives go on with this bill being pushed by the lawmakers to make it move from the exclusive list to the concurrent list and make it official that, okay, fine, you states, you can go on and negotiate with your workers and have your own set base pay floor for the minimum wage?
We cannot. Labour cannot allow states to fix minimum wages.
It's happening. It's happening already, comrade. When you go to the federal government and the federal government, you have this negotiation and you set 30,000 naira, you come back to the state still renegotiate. Some of the governors will meet the labor leaders at the state level and say, this is what I can afford, this is what I can pay. And at the end of the day, you have some of these states settling with lower amount to the set base floor as negotiated at the federal level.
Yes, let us be real.
Okay.
Any state governor that does not want to pay does not mean that he cannot pay. Only that he has made up his mind not to pay. Not that the resources are not there. Because that is fixed by the federal remains here. That this is the list you can come. Because everybody is going to the same market. Now, let me tell you that most of the state governments, they made up their mind. Or they network. They have a network. We cannot. But some good state governors, they go ahead to pay. For instance, when we had our own fees in the state here, the state governor was magnanimous enough even to beef up the 30,000 naira to 30,100 naira. Not that others cannot pay. So they can pay, but the issue is that they have refused to pay, giving the impression that the resources are not there.
Interesting. Don't you think there is another way of achieving this independence that we crave for our states, comrade?
Yes, another way. Let me get your question again, please.
Yeah, I'm talking about the independence. We have this independence we are craving for our states. The federal level, at the federal level, one of the reasons given by the House of Representatives is that it is a way of achieving true federalism, so that the states can be in control of their resources and there is this devolution of power they are trying to achieve, which is one of the reasons this bill is being raised. I'm asking if there is another way you think this can be achieved for the independence that we are craving for our states.
No matter whatever other reason they have, the federal should be allowed to determine the minimum wage. One, if they want to achieve true federalism, changing the minimum wage or removing the minimum wage from the exclusive list to concurrent list should not be the first port of call. There are others. For instance, resource control. They should start talking of that. Anything that you have, you should take control and pay something to the federal. We are now talking of true federalism, not with a minimum wage.
All right.
So let them say the things that people will hear and be happy.
All right, Comrade Sonia Wuma, I want to really appreciate your time this morning on the platform. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us on this subject matter. We do appreciate.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Comrade Sonny is the chairman of the Abia State Trade Union Congress. We will still continue the conversation, just before we throw the lines open. I still have to talk to the chairman of the Nigeria Labour Congress in Abia State. He was just elected. I think it was late last month or early this month. So we will be talking to him for the first time right here on the platform, the pinnacle of all discussions. His name is Comrade Eze Idima. But just before we move on with the conversation this morning, we take a short break, and when we return, we continue the conversation.
At Flow 94.9 FM, we've got conducive and well-secured environment for business. High-tech video studio, a state-of-the-art production studio. You can also listen live on www.flow949fm.com and watch our videos on YouTube at Flow FM TV. Flow 94.9 FM, not just radio, but a complete broadcasting house.
Any propriety in the federal government imposing the national minimum wage when the resources available to the federal government are at variance with those available to the state government on each state.
A room in Jos is not more than 100,000 a year. A room in Asoko.
Well, that was when it was discussed on the floor of the House of Representatives last week. That amendment to the provisions of the 1999 Constitution to remove matters relating to wages from the exclusive list, the exclusive legislative list, to the concurrent legislative list, meaning that the federal government will lose its exclusive powers to negotiate and determine the minimum wage for workers across the three tiers of the government. It means that the workers at the state level and also the local government level will have to negotiate with the government at those tiers of government to negotiate, of course, and determine what will be the benchmark for the minimum wage that will be paid workers across board. But I'm trying to get across to the NLC chairman this morning. He's still very much busy. As soon as I get across to him, I will put him online so that he can discuss with us and, of course, share his thoughts with us. We understand that the federal level, okay, all right, I think we can connect with him now. We understand that the NLC at the federal level, they've directed the state level to back on this occupy state assemblies at the federation, of course, in the country, in fact, at the national level and also at the state level. But we have Comrade Eze Idima joining us this morning on the program. Comrade, good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us on the platform on Flow 94.9 FM. Hello, Comrade.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
We do appreciate you joining us. Now, let's go straight. I'm sure you have an idea of the subject of discussion. Tell us about the plan, your plan, especially coming from the federal level, to occupy the state assembly on Wednesday.
Yeah, I hope you are aware of the bill proposed by one Mohammed.
Yes.
About removing the minimum wage in the exclusive list. So here in the state, Congress met on Friday and we have fully mobilized all the industrial union in the state. So come out on Wednesday by 10 a.m. to move to the State House Assembly. Today we have written letters to all the security agencies in the state, informing them of the development. We hope that every labor leader in the state, of course our membership, will storm the State House Assembly tomorrow for the rally.
So,
Sorry, not tomorrow, on Wednesday for the
Wednesday.
rally.
Comrade, you're telling me that there is no going back on that protest?
That's not going back.
Well, let's talk about the subject matter here. Is it that you're afraid of the governors? Why going against this legislation?
Well, in the past, you find out that some governors, of course, some state governments have been unable to pay the minimum wage. Some have not paid fully the 18,000 naira minimum wage and the consequent adjustments. And this 30,000 naira that was bargained last year and agreed, some of the states have also not paid it fully. So if you hand them over making law on minimum wage, that means the workers will not be paid a living wage. Even what we are taking today is less than a living wage, considering the rate of inflation in the country. So handing it over to the governors or the state government means that people want the workers of the country to suffer. And when the workers suffer, or somebody will not be attracting the best brain, so people will be not ready to go to a civil service because state government will make it what they want it to be. It will not be in the interest of the country.
Okay, comrade, let's look at some of these enablers now. We have the state of the federation getting different, they have disparity in resources from the revenues they generate on a monthly basis and also from the allocation they receive from the federal government. Do you think it is fair enough to have a national minimum wage binding on all the states of the federation?
Well, I think it is proper because we go to the same market. I appreciate the fact that the revenue from the federation account is not equal for all the governments in the federation. But if you talk about the take home or what the people in political arena, that's those politicians take, there's uniformity. Their salaries and allowances are approved by Salaries and Wages Commission, which is a national body. Then if their salaries and allowances are approved by Salaries and Wages Commission, it's also proper that the minimum wage should be given a national outlook. And you find out that this minimum wage was done, it's an ILO something, which Nigeria signed this convention and at the same time internalized it and implemented it by 1981. So coming to ask the state government to determine the wage of their employees would be counterproductive. Like I said before, though their allocation is not the same, but I know that each state government can carry the minimum wage as being paid in the country today.
Yes. But can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing
okay,
you.
great. It looks like there is no difference in the situation that we have, which is presently it is still on the exclusive list, and the lawmakers are trying to move it to the concurrent list. It seems there is no difference because at the end of the day, when you finished negotiating with the federal government, you agreed 30,000. The state governors still come back to the labor leaders at the state level to renegotiate with them. For example, some states will say, I cannot pay 30,000 naira. I will go ahead and pay you 27,000 naira. Go ahead and pay you 26,000 naira. It seems that it is the same with this proposition by the lawmakers.
No, I don't think it's the same because no labor leader in the state negotiates minimum wage. What labor leaders negotiate is a consequential adjustment. I agree with you that some state governments have not been able to implement the last one. But that does not mean that a new one is being negotiated. Now, if they cannot, if it is negotiated at the national level, as it's being done now, then labor leaders at the state level have the basis to say, they make demands, they pay us this based on what is acceptable in the entire country. But a situation whereby you allow them to determine what they pay completely, then there's no basis of comparison. You will not say, okay, government will say this is what we can pay. If we cannot pay, you go to hell. But now that it's done at the national level, then what they can say is to maybe delay payments. But at the end of the day, it must be paid.
Okay, your plan to occupy the State Assembly on Wednesday, what difference do you think it will make?
I think the essence is being informative. To tell the assemblymen and women that provincial detaining is passed at the national level and is remitted onto them for concurrent. That they know that their people, workers in their state, their brothers and sisters, will not be happy for them to support such a bill. And on the other hand, also, it's also good to tell those in the National Assembly the temperament or the feelings of workers in their various states, their various constituencies, that they are not happy with development. I think it's going to bring a caution in the way the bill will be discussed in the next sessions of the National Assembly.
Okay, should in case the National Assembly insist that there is no going back on that legislation, what will be the next step the NLC will take? Are we looking at another strike?
Well, yes, if you have listened to National President of Congress, in the briefing after the virtual next meeting, it was agreed that if they go ahead, Labour will have no alternative than embark on a national strike.
Interesting. All right, Comrade Eze Idima, would you appreciate you? It's your first time of speaking to us on the platform after being sworn in as the NLC chairman in Abia State. We do wish you all the best in your activities as you champion the affairs of that Congress in the state level here in Abia State. Thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right, you heard Comrade Eze Idima, the Abia State Nigeria Labour Congress chairman.